Hello and welcome to the Leading with Connection podcast. I'm your host, Charlotte Jameson. Today I'm joined with an expert in neurobiology, Melissa Lever. Mel, welcome.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me this morning.
Mel, this conversation is so needed because yesterday I was with a group of leaders and we were talking about particular challenges that they were going through. And a lot of the challenges that they were facing were things like sleep deprivation or their frustration levels or their stress levels or their anxiety levels or even imposter syndrome as well, and setting boundaries. And I'm really looking forward to this conversation because I was like, this is exactly what they needed to hear, was this idea of when your neurobiology is really kind of running the show and it's not going so well. So listen, for those people who don't know Mel is a physiotherapist and founder of Body Intuition Collective, specializing in interoception, which we will unpack, interoception and perimenopause. So what makes her work so unique is that she bridges the clinical world of physio with something most practitioners actually don't teach, and that's how women can actually hear what their bodies are saying, not just manage symptoms, but fundamentally how we can actually reconnect with ourselves. So she works with women who are high functioning, often in leadership roles, and quietly struggling through the hormonal and nervous system changes of perimenopause. And her Foundation Interoception program and soon to launch Recalibrate program are built on a powerful idea that the body isn't a problem to fix. It's a signal to listen to. And I love that. I love that. So Mel, would you just spend a little time just sharing a bit of your story? How did you get into this? Why are you sitting here now knowing what interoception actually means?
Yeah, definitely. So I've been a physio for 21 years and 15 of those have been running my own clinic. So definitely understand the pressures of leadership and management. And very early on, it was always about treating the injury and pain and then realizing that there was more to it. So a lot of clients who would come in would have neck tension, possibly no cause. Obviously, a lot of them were sitting at computers and maybe doing long hours. But there was one client that really stood out, and there was nothing different about her schedule, about her lifestyle. And it took quite a while to unpack why she was getting this neck tension and severe nerve pain. And it was only as she started to feel comfortable, she actually told me it was that she was going through a relationship breakdown. And it was this light bulb moment for me that, hang on, our body actually physically manifests what's going on inside in us emotionally. And so seeing that connection between the emotional burnout, fatigue, stress, managing home life, work life, and then seeing them in the clinic where they're coming in with back pain, neck pain, and you even get clients who've got this cycle that they're about to turn up because something stressful is happening. The head accountants who are coming in at tax time, that it's almost predictable what their body is going to be going through because of where they are in their life or, career or work or something like that. So yeah, really interesting to see how that our internal body can give us such a message. And that's exactly what interoception is our sense of understanding what our body's internal signals are trying to tell us.
Yeah, excellent. It's not something I only came across interoception through mindfulness and meditation, but it's not something that it's not a word we toss around every day.
No.
So it is a hard concept to really get your head around, I think, for people to really start to go, oh, so I have to actually stop and listen to my body. And as you say, lots of these things that we're experiencing are signals. Stress we're feeling is a signal saying, oh, we care about this thing. And it's just a signal for us to listen to and go, okay, what do I need right now? So it's a very powerful skill to learn. So Mel, in your experience, you say you come across leaders, and seeing this podcast about leaders, let's hone in on those. What has been your experience when you have found when you've been working with these leaders? What's been your experience around their own sort of leadership and the way they show up and what's happening with them in terms of their body or the flux or the lax in hormones, those
Yeah,
sorts of things?
definitely. Well, I guess that's the thing, is that the women I work with, by the time they get to those leadership roles, They usually are in their 40s, maybe 50s, and going through perimenopause, which, as I'm starting to go through some of the symptoms now, it's quite a challenging period where you find what used to work is not working so much anymore. And so, really connecting with yourself is so important. And that's probably why they present to me is they're getting that neck pain, that back pain, the jaw tension, because what used to work for them of just pushing through, getting the job done, is not working so much. That when we're going through perimenopause, our nervous system is not as regulated due to the fluctuations in hormones. And so we're really needing to review the way we have that conversation with our body and how we show up as leaders. And if you're feeling disconnected to yourself, then connect with your team or even your family life with your kids, your partner, can be really challenging. And so you're probably trying to use the tools that used to work for you, that you actually need to step back and say, okay, well, what new tools can I use? And I think the strongest leaders that I see are the ones who are connected to themselves, are comfortable to sit with discomfort, whether it be, okay, I'm stressed, I'm feeling this tension in my neck, I actually need to address it, versus that constant push through of, I'm going to ignore it. You actually need to sit with that discomfort and, with leadership, sometimes have difficult conversations, or even just knowing, as I said, that accountant, knowing the stressful periods that are going to come up and working how to manage that better, whether it's relying on a bit more help at home or it is delegating some workload. That I think the leaders who can understand what's going on internally can then lead with so much better skill set for their team, and their team really notices it as well.
Mhm. Have you got can you draw upon experiences where you've had leaders show up to you because they've been pushing and pushing, and maybe they're experiencing burnout because they've just been showing up and showing up and showing up, which is not uncommon for, especially as we're talking about women. We've kind of gone through the whole baby phase
Mhm.
um, of sleep deprivation and of showing up to work because we have to keep, the finances flowing, but also if you step away from the workplace, it keeps going. And so this kind of, I guess, this need to kind of keep showing up so that we don't become irrelevant. Because once the kids are a little bit older, we need to kind of well, most of us need to get back into the workforce. And so we are sort of programmed to just keep going, and our kids never stop needing us, and the work never stops needing us, and we just keep giving and giving and giving, which, as you say, works up to a point. But have you got any sort of experiences that you can draw upon where people have sort of come to you and gone, this is how it's unraveling, I
Yeah.
suppose.
Well, I guess a big thing is when I speak to these leaders, we talk about what are you presenting with today, and we'll discuss, what might be contributing to it, and often it is those longer hours. And I often say to them, what's going on week to week, and they rattle off this whole list, and they just say it matter of factly. And I say to them, oh, that sounds really stressful. And it's only when you throw that question to them that they suddenly think, hang on, yeah, I didn't realize that I'm just running on this, as you say, just showing up, doing your job, running the household, all these kind of things, that it's that stop and that permission to ask themselves, hang on, how am I doing? And then that realization for them to go, well, it is stressful. And we not only problem solve the actual issue, whether it be, the neck pain, the back pain, it's then how do we try and resolve these situations of managing the workload? And for me, I highlight so much about sleep, and it's not just with a stress, it is even with a simple knee injury, that I say sleep is the time that your body is actually healing. And so, if there's anything that the leaders can take away, it is trying to address that sleep period and break through that idea that you've just got to keep pushing. And I say to them, you're not going to be productive in your workplace. You're going to have this pain that's constantly in the back of your head if you cannot help yourself recover. And so I can do my job as a physio, but at the end of the day, we need to look at how you can manage this better. And so definitely the sleep is something we address, trying to get out at lunchtime for that short little break, finding what is a great nervous system regulation for them. So sometimes it is having that social connection. So I'm like, great, if you're in the car on the way home, give your best friend a call, have that chat. It's not taking up extra time. So it's not this pressure of I have to do another thing. It's trying to slot in these little micro moments where they can get that regulation. And I think it is just, as I said, giving them that opportunity to realize what's going on with themselves.
Yeah, and we've moved really nicely into some things that people can really think about to do differently. And as you said, like just going for a little lunchtime walk, just jog my memory around the importance of movement
Yeah.
and how a lot of us think, oh, I've been for my run or my morning walk,
Mm.
tick. Now I can sit in the office for 14 hours straight, which I hope you're not doing, but I know that there are people who do that. And they just sit there all day from meeting to meeting to meeting. Uh, that's not good for our bodies.
No. And look, I'm probably biased being a physio. I absolutely love movement for my clients, and it's definitely one of my core habits as well as something that my body just craves. But as you mentioned, it's not just that tick. I've gone to the gym, I've gone for my run. It is also really important for that nervous system regulation. And so it doesn't need to be long. I often say to people, look, if you've been at your computer for 45 minutes, just even do some shoulder rolls or stand up and march on the spot, just something to get that blood flow moving, break the monotony of doing whatever job that you're doing at the time. And I think for these high performing, functioning women, we're very good at ticking things off and achievement. And that's where you think, if I'm going to exercise, it's got to be worthwhile. I've got to go to the gym, I've got to go for a run. And I'm reframing it as, yes, definitely strength is super important, perimenopause. But if anything, it's that nervous system regulation. And it's not that you have to find 20 minutes, half an hour in your day. It can be as simple as when you need to go to the bathroom, just walk outside, get some fresh air, just get that time away from your desk. And I think, as I said, we're so good at ticking things off. And so the pressure to add more to it, it's all about finding these little micro moments that you can put in your day to really help that nervous system.
I think that's such an important message because I've certainly grown up with that idea of exercise needs to be this. And then if you're injured or if you don't have that time, it's like it sort of just drops off. So I actually put some weights underneath my desk with the intention, I might add, it was an intention, that I would just do some squats, just 2 or 3. But my problem was or is I haven't anchored it to a specific time. So they've just sat there. I've got a golden retriever, so it's a bit fluffy instead of being used.
The intention's the first thing. That is great. It's definitely trying to carve out that
Yeah.
time or even make it a habit. If you're
Yeah.
standing up, maybe you just do 10 squats when you stand up.
Yeah. Yeah, that's it. That's
Mm.
it. And but tying that to that anchor point of like, I've just finished writing an email, so now I will do my squats,
Yeah, absolutely.
rather than, oh, they're there under the table. But I'm like, yeah, but when do I do it? Like, when is the time that I actually, do the squat?
Yes,
I did have this thing of bath time. I did like 3 squats every time I had the kids in the bath. Um,
perfect.
yeah, it was great. But now I'm not there when they're having their baths or the showers anymore, so I'm not squatting. Okay, so what else? What else can we do? We're busy people. We're trying to kind of tap into our bodies and listen to the signals. What are some really great things for us to take
Yeah,
away?
I guess for each person, it's quite different. And so in my coursework, in my program, I definitely talk about what we call glimmers. So finding those little moments that actually bring us joy and regulate. And you just smiled. So there's probably something that straight away came to mind. And like I said, it doesn't have to be time consuming, doesn't have to be arduous. For me, I've got quite the commute to the clinic, and that can be stressful in peak hour. And so I've worked out for myself, it's putting on some good music, motivating myself myself relaxing. It's going to take the time it is. So just enjoy that time in the car. And again, it's not adding extra time. It's I'm there anyway. And so it's trying to find those little things that can lift our mood, calm our nervous system. You know, for some people, it's daylight. So it's getting out first thing in the morning. And it might not even be to exercise. It might be just having your coffee outside rather than in the confines of your home when you're about to go and sit in an office all day. So it is these little micro moments that don't put more pressure on us to achieve things or to add to the to-do list. And I think it's just finding what works for each of us. And I definitely encourage people to reflect on it themselves as to what makes them feel good. You know, sometimes it's reading a funny book or like connection with friends or even family. And it's just finding those little things in every day that don't need to be time consuming, but can really turn the nervous system around to being calm and regulated and really make a difference.
So this takes a lot of, if we go back to that word intention
Mm.
again,
Yeah.
because it was not until I was in the sort of thick of COVID that I realized I was turning to podcasts
Mhm.
a lot for continual knowledge, but also just to listen to another adult and just to listen to like people and you know, just for some stimulation, I think. And so I was in the kitchen listening. I was putting away washing, listening. I was, you know, I was doing all the things listening to podcasts. But what I recognized was I wasn't in the car doing karaoke.
Ah! So you
wasn't I
feel that.
wasn't I wasn't listening to my music
Yeah.
and I wasn't singing. So singing's a, you know, an amazing regulator, as you know, to help with the vagus nerve toning. But I wasn't singing as much and I was just listening to podcasts. So it was, yeah, it was like really dull for me. And you've done a post on this recently. Music is an amazing way to shift your nervous system really quickly. And so, yeah, but I needed to reflect on that. Like I needed to know what I was missing in order to do something about it. So for me now, I'm really conscious about if I'm not feeling it, to put on the right level of music, either the happy joy, you know, get it out, or sometimes I'm so like pissed off with the world that I've got Alanis Morissette going, you know, and I just like I just scream it out, belt it out, and it feels really good. And then other times it's the piano in the background when I want to send messages to the kids to chill. Um, So music's really good. I'm really curious as to your point of view. How do people build the skill of listening to the signals in their body?
It takes time and it is a skill. So it is definitely something that you can train, and it's having the awareness that you actually want to learn the skill. So it is finding those moments of rest where you can stop and go, what am I feeling in my body? And there's no judgment attached to it, that I think we need to sometimes come up with the right answer. And that's not what you're actually feeling at the time. And so it is doing a body scan to go, is there any tension or is there actually lightness? You know, I think we talk about it quite negatively of, oh, it's always tension, it's always stress, but sometimes it can be this real joy that you walk and you go, I've got a real lightness to me today, whether it's
Mm.
because you've been really happy with what's going on with life at the moment, you're excited about something in that day. So it is finding the time to stop, and it doesn't have to be eyes closed. It can be in the car, it can be, you know, waiting for your kids' swimming lessons, whatever life looks like, you know, even in the lift to work, when you've got those 30 seconds in the lift to have that moment to yourself. And breath can be really powerful as well, because if you are noticing things, you can actually breathe it out. So that jaw tension, that tension in the shoulders where you're holding yourself quite stiffly, to just go, that's what I'm feeling. No judgment. It might not mean anything. It doesn't necessarily mean I'm stressed. I may physically just be going, I'm holding myself this way and I've got no idea why. And just allowing yourself that breath to let it all go and step into whatever next moment you're about to be in.
Can you walk us through what that actually looks like when you feel some tension in your shoulder? What How do you breathe it out? What does
Yeah,
that look like?
definitely. So there's so many different types of breathing techniques, and they're actually associated with what emotional stage you're in. So there's things like the verbal sigh when you're angry, and you may notice that you do it with your kids anyway, when they're getting you frustrated, you're like, oh, and you don't even realize you're doing that. So there's those type of things where you can physically dispel that frustration. And then when it comes to neck tension, a lot of the time it's that 4 second box breathing. So you breathe in for 4 seconds, hold it for 4 seconds. As you're breathing out for that 4 seconds, try and soften through those muscles. So whether it be the jaw or the neck, really allowing that shift of movement, and it can be even rolling your shoulders to try and shift it. Or for a lot of people, it's just breathing out and opening up through their shoulders, allowing that air to move out and that softness to come into the muscles. And then again, you hold for 4 seconds, but the box breathing is really nice because it just gets you focused on your breath rather than, oh, I'm racing to this moment, or I've just had that stressful conversation. It's like I'm present in the moment, I'm just breathing, and that's all I have to focus on.
Mm, mm. And that loud sigh is similar to the physiological sigh of breathing in for two and then out. Maybe it's a neurodivergence thing. It really works well with my husband and my daughter because the idea of sitting still and breathing just freaks them out. They're just like, I'm not, the amount of thoughts that I have in my head that's not going to work. But they can do one or two, and I'm trying to encourage them to do a few more, but hey, one's a win, one's a win. I find that's a great in for people to start with, is that loud sigh or that sort of thing, because it's not too much.
Exactly. And I'm guilty. I am always got a racing mind. It's just my personality. I love to think, and I don't find it all the time challenging to think. But it's then, as you say, that how do I focus on breathing when all these thoughts are going in my head? Or, and I think as high achieving women, we want to be productive. So you're thinking, well, what's this breathing achieving? Like, am I getting more oxygen into my muscles, or what am I doing here? And so, 2 seconds, you go, you can just, and people get it, we understand what that feels like, and it feels good. And it can sometimes just be that little reset that we all need in our day. It doesn't have to be half an hour of breath work. It can be 20 seconds, 10 seconds of it. And it can really shift how our vagus nerve is, how our nervous system is. It's amazing.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. Well, wrapping up this session today, if there's something that you would encourage women leaders out there, even male leaders, it doesn't have to be that, but someone to connect with the signals in your bodies, what would it be if there was something people could just take away from this
Yeah,
conversation?
I think it's to sit with yourself and give yourself that time. And like I said, it doesn't need to be a 10-minute meditation. It's finding time in your regular routine where you can sit and just notice what's going on, not to change it, not to manage it, but just to acknowledge it. And then thinking, I can actually release that tension, that stress, that burnout through those little micro moments of music or the big sigh breath, getting outdoors in nature, or again, that quick little 5-minute walk during the day. So, not to put more pressure on ourselves to achieve more, to do the checklist. It is just to have that moment for yourself to notice and find your little glimmers in the day.
I love that. Thank you so much for your glimmer of education here. Listen, if people want to know more, where do we find you?
Yeah, so I'm on Instagram at Body Intuition Collective, and my website, bodyintuitioncollective.com.au.
Fantastic. And you are starting to roll into the corporate space as well,
Yeah,
helping leaders.
definitely. So I think that's the power of interoception, is that it can be used for any situation because we do need it as leaders. And so it is to look at those women who are going through these transitional changes in life with perimenopause, and obviously they tend to be the leaders in the workplace. So definitely open to educate and provide practical solutions for a lot of our leaders out there.
Yeah, fantastic. Because when we connect to ourselves, we can connect with others.
Absolutely.
That's great. Thank you so much for your time, Mel.
Thanks
Speak
so
to you.
much for having me.
Bye bye. Opinions and information shared on this podcast are for general purposes and should not be considered as specific advice or services.